What is really, actually happening in your life right now? That might sound like the most basic question, but you'd be surprised at how many people are not living with their feet planted in the present. They are not grounded in reality. So ask yourself, am I facing the facts of my life? Or am I pretending that things are going better than they actually are? Anytime we ask self-reflective questions, I like to guide my students to think about 4 areas of life: body, brain, heart, and soul. So body is physically. Are you doing as well physically as you think you are? Are you eating right, sleeping enough, getting enough physical activity? Brain. This is your academic, intellectual learning life. Are you growing as a student? Are you keeping up in your classes as well as you think you are? Are your grades being inflated in your mind? Or are you actually really doing well in all of your classes? Heart. Heart is all your relationships, your friendships, your relationship with your parents, your guardians, your family. Are these relationships as healthy as you want to believe they are? And finally, your faith. That is your soul. How is your relationship with God actually going? What are the facts of your faith? Do you pretend that you are closer to God than you know you are? Do you pretend that you understand what Christianity is all about and what Jesus came to do? Or do you really actually understand the gospel? These are not easy questions to answer, and only leaders who take leadership seriously will take these questions seriously. This video is for leaders, not necessarily people who want positions of leadership, but people who want to lead themselves well. If you want to lead yourself before you lead anybody else, then keep watching. This video is for you. Personal leadership, or leading yourself, begins with reality. In this book by John Maxwell called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn, and it's the book I am taking my leadership students through this school year, John Maxwell calls reality the foundation of learning. And I agree with that. If you cannot see the facts of your life and plant your feet in what is actually really going on, then your entire life is basically an illusion. You're basically just going to self-select what you see, what you hear, what you think, and you're not going to be able to lead well because you're not dealing with what is actually real. Facing the facts is not easy, and I want to show you 3 ways that you can face the facts of your life so that you can lead your life well. The first way to face the facts of your life, to face reality, is to recognize what is objectively, factually true and happening, and what is subjective feelings that you have about the facts. If you can separate your feelings, then you can see what the facts actually are. One of the students that I have the privilege of mentoring one-on-one every month was leading herself through a friendship that was breaking down. And she had a lot of subjective, sad feelings toward losing this friend, losing this longtime friendship. And we spent a while in our sessions just trying to separate what was actually happening, the texts that were actually being exchanged, the lack of involvement of this friend in her life, and separating that from how she felt about everything that was happening. And that was truly key for her to ground herself in reality. Because in her heart, she didn't want to lose this friend. She had invested years of emotion and personal involvement in this friendship, and she wasn't going to let all that go easily. And once we were able to separate how she felt about what was going on, then she could see what was going on and she could understand better why this friendship was not going to sustain itself, at least not for now. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe there is a friendship in your life that is not as healthy as you want to believe it is, but you're unwilling to separate how you feel about the friendship from the friendship itself. This happens a lot in romantic relationships, right? In crushes, where you want to believe that he likes me, even though if he liked me, he wouldn't leave me on red. He would text me back. He would wait for me after class. But if those things, those evidences of him liking me are not there, those are the facts. That is what is real. And that is what leaders need to be able to face and to accept. This principle of separating your feelings from the facts is especially challenging for those of you who are optimists, because optimists want to believe the best about people. They want to believe the best about every situation. But, one thing I appreciated that John Maxwell said in the chapter about reality, which is chapter 3, is that it's possible to abuse optimism. And you abuse optimism when you use optimism or hope as an excuse for behavior that shouldn't be. You use optimism to ignore the facts if they are disturbing, if they are not what you want to see, not what you want to hear, not what you want to believe. So don't abuse optimism. Okay, the second way that you can face the facts of life and ground yourself in what is real and what is actually happening is to be willing to stop, be willing to quit, be willing to cut your losses when things are not going to work out. This one, too, is hard for optimists because optimists tend to give people and situations a second chance. Give them a third chance. Give them a fourth chance. Give them a fifth chance. Don't stop believing. Don't give up. Keep persevering, keep persisting. And then eventually things will work out. Sometimes that's true. But there are times when you as leaders need to exercise wisdom and discernment to know when the right thing to do is to stop. The right thing to do is to quit. The right thing to do is to admit that this isn't working and to try something else, to change the plan, to change the strategy, to admit that this is not going to work. And before it gets any harder, I need to stop right now. You can probably see how that applies to relationships, right? To both friendships and romantic interests. The longer you drag on a friendship or a romantic interest that just is not going to work out, the harder it will be to break up, to move on. I saw a meme on Instagram that illustrates this principle of cutting your losses very simply and accurately. It said, the more stops you pass in the bus, the more expensive it will be to get home. That is so true. The faster you can admit that you're not where you're supposed to be, the easier, the cheaper, the more efficient it will be to get back to starting again and trying something else. So what in your life do you need to cut your losses? What is not going the way that it's supposed to be going? And you know it's not going to work out. You're just delaying that truth. Let me encourage you to not wait too long to quit. Not wait too long to admit that this isn't gonna work. The faster you can get off the bus, the easier and quicker and cheaper it will be to get back to where you were, where you can start again. All right, so to face the facts of your life, leaders like you not only need to know when to stop, when to call it quits, when to start over, when to try something else. Leaders also need to know when to start, when to take action. So now we are talking about situations where if you let a problem or an issue go on and on, it's going to get worse. This is a call to take action before the problem gets bigger. Instead of, like we said before, abusing optimism and believing that the problem is going to solve itself. That if I do nothing, the problem will somehow get easier or somehow resolve itself without me doing anything about it. Is there a problem, an issue in your life that you're secretly hoping will just disappear, will just solve itself, and you don't have to get involved, you don't have to do anything, take any kind of action? Maybe it's something you're just, devoutly praying about. And I hate to tell you, but let me tell you, most things in life are not going to be solved simply by praying. We pray about anything and everything unceasingly, but we also take action. It's an active prayer. It's an active waiting on the Lord. So what do you need to start instead of continuing to procrastinate or put off? Do it now. Just start where you are. That's what every leader needs to do. Just work with where you are and what you have and make a little bit of progress, like a half step of progress in the right direction. And half step by half step, you will see progress. You will get to your end goal. But you have to determine that you're not just going to hope and pray that issues and problems will solve themselves. They usually don't. And take action, because leadership is all about initiative. The last thing I want to say is that Jesus was super clear about reality. And in John 16:33, he left his disciples with these words: I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world. So those of you who are Christians, and even those of you who are not, in the Bible, God, through Christ, promises us that we will have trouble. We will have problems. We live in a fallen world and we are fallen people. And so Jesus is telling us to expect problems and expect trouble. But within those problems, you can have peace. Jesus left us his peace. And so we ultimately put our hope and our trust and our faith, not in our problem-solving skills, not in our personal leadership abilities. We put our hope and confidence and trust in Christ. He has overcome all the sins that cause every problem in this world. As Christians, we have another word for reality, and that is truth. What is real is another way of asking what is true. And remember when Jesus said that in the end, he would separate the sheep from the goats. The people who think that they are sheep may not actually be sheep. The people who think they are saved may not actually be saved. And so we have to take reality and take truth seriously, especially when it comes to our eternal destiny, what we actually believe about Christ and about the gospel. Ask yourself, am I willing to face the facts? And if I am not, why? Why am I unwilling to admit honestly what is happening? And I want to encourage you that if you are a Christian, you can afford to face the facts. You can be the most honest person around because you believe in a God who is in complete control of all of the details of your life, and in a God who is good, who's going to use his omniscience and his omnipotence for your good and for his glory. So there is nothing that is happening in our real lives that we cannot afford to face head on with complete transparency, complete honesty, as painful as that might be. So may I encourage you to lead yourself to Christ, pray to God so that he would open the eyes of your heart to see with courage and with confidence what is happening, so that God can come in and lead you through it, whatever it is, a friendship, a grade in a class, a problem that you don't know what to do with. There's nothing too hard for God to lead you through. He will put the right resources and the right people and the right timing around you to see you through. I hope this little talk about the importance of seeing reality and facing the facts was helpful to you. And if you enjoyed this video, I'll see you in the next video, which will be about chapter 4 in this book, which is all about responsibility, which is the first step in learning. I'll see you there.